Concentration camps. Human experiments. Absolute power. North Korea has produced some of the most fucked up science experiments out there. Here are 13 of them, from testimonies of North Korean defectors to those with access to undisclosed North Korean documents. 13 most fucked up North Korean science experiments. The giant rabbit feeding program, proposed by the late Kim Jong-il. He wanted to breed giant, overweight rabbits as a way of feeding the masses of starving people in his country. He got this idea after seeing German rabbit breeder Karl Schmorlinski breed the largest rabbit, a 10.5 kilogram bunny. Afterwards, he flew Schmorlinski down to his North Korean farm to breed rabbits in order to save 23 million people reportedly suffering from widespread food shortages in North Korea. The plan had been said to be not as successful as he would have thought. The Human Feces Government Program. Since about 80% of North Korea is located in mountain areas, farming is a major problem in North Korea, and feces used for farming has always been imported, either from the Soviet Union to the more recent South Korea. But since 2008, South Korea has stopped sending fertilizer over, causing the government to create a program in which farmers had to use their own feces as fertilizers. Factory workers also had to meet a quota of 2 tons of human feces. Human waste has now become a commodity in North Korea. Human surgery practice lessons. Former North Korean prison guard An Mun-chol reported that in North Korean prisons, prisoners would be used for medical operations practiced by young doctors. After drinking a considerable amount of alcohol, these young doctors would perform various practice surgeries on the prisoners without using any anesthesia. According to the prison guard, a black van known as the Crow would drive around to pick out about 40 to 50 prisoners every month when the 3rd Bureau was running out of subjects for medical operations practice. Poisoned cabbage leaves. A North Korean defector, Lee Sun-ok, described a government experiment used to test deadly poisons. In his account, Lee said that 50 female prisoners were selected and given what was supposedly poisoned cabbage leaves. The women were required to eat the cabbage entirely despite protests. After 20 minutes, all 50 women had supposedly died, but not before vomiting large amounts of blood and bleeding profusely from their anus. An empty city. Meant to attract and dazzle their South Korean neighbors, North Korea has created a city on the border of North and South Korea called Kijangdong, with modern-looking schools and even a hospital. The town looks clean and well-maintained, counteracting the stereotype people have of North Korea. But one thing Kijangdong lacks: a human population. Lights are time-automated, and the only human activity in the empty shell of a town are cleaners who sweep and clean the streets every day to keep up the expectation of anything resembling normality. Camp 22. North Korea's maximum security concentration camp. Isolated from the rest of the world, prisoners are held here in lifelong sentences. Former prison guard of Camp 22, Kwon Hook, stated that the laboratories are equipped with the infamous gas chambers designed for suffocation gas experiments. He had once witnessed a family of 4, a mother, a father, a son, and a daughter, be executed together in the gas chambers. He said that for as long as they could, the parents had tried to keep their kids alive by mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, giving their children their own last breath. Sadly, in the end, they all died. The knee and wood torture method. Despite murder being an extremely common occurrence at Camp 22, North Korean authorities have invented interesting ways of torturing their prisoners. The knee and wood torture method, where a prisoner will be forced to kneel on top of a wooden bar, closed off the blood circulation in the joint known as the knee hollow. He is to kneel in this position continuously for, reportedly, up to a week's time. After this torture, the prisoner will either have their limbs amputated due to the damage caused, or will simply end up dying months later due to the trauma of the torture. The water torture method. Recounted by a female prisoner, the water torture method was one in which the prisoner had to stand straight on their tippy toes, and water was filled up all the way to the prisoner's nostrils. If they even moved or lowered half an inch from their position, water would drown into their noses. They would suffer this for 24 hours. The human airplane torture method. Every prisoner of Camp 22 has to go through this torture. A human experiment on how long a human can hold a position in place. Prisoners are forced to hold in positions as if they were imaginary airplanes, standing on one leg's arms spread, or pretend like they're riding on a motorcycle, with them being in a crouching position with arms reaching forward. The experiment is meant to see who has the longest endurance. Those who lose get maliciously beaten. Anthrax tests on disabled children. A former member of the North Korean Special Forces stated that he abandoned the regime of Kim Jong-il after they had apparently conducted human experiments of biological and chemical tests on disabled children and adults. The first sighting by the member was in 1984, in which they conducted tests involving anthrax and other substances. The North Korean government would try to first legally buy the disabled children from their parents, promising good health care for them. If there was resistance, they would be threatened or even murdered. A defector named Ji Zong-ho said that after he lost his limbs after a fatal accident, he was told by his country that he should just die and that he hurt the dignity of North Korea. Mass castration of the disabled. Aside from children, adults with disabilities get a great amount of inhuman things done to them as well. Because North Korea sees those with disabilities as a stain to their nation's image, they are either used for science experiments or simply neglected, without food or help until they die. Defectors have said that people with dwarfism are sent to a remote village in the mountains, forbidden to leave and entirely left on their own. They are also all castrated so that they will not have any more babies with disabilities. Other people with disabilities have also been forced to live amongst themselves in an isolated island, where they are also castrated to prevent having babies. The North Korean space program. North Korea has a space program, and it has a 20% success rate, meaning Of the 5 satellite launches North Korea has made with its national space program, only 1 has managed to make it safely into orbit. Let's just think if there were actual living astronauts in those launches. The government-controlled radio. Every household in North Korea had a government-controlled radio that cannot be turned off, only turned down. The main topic of the radio: propaganda about South Korea. "13 most fucked up science experiments from North Korea." I was never any good with science in school. Some of them, granted, may not be your official science experiments with hypotheses or observations, but I think everyone who watched this video got a gist of what I was trying to say, and whether you think it's fucked up or not is your own opinion. In my book, all 13 of these, I'll call science experiments, are fucked up. Pardon my French. So that's it.